Hey, Coach Elan here. I hope you are having a good day. So today what I want to do is take a deep dive into your mindset around food. Because I was speaking with a client earlier on who's on my 8-week transformation program, and we've been really taking a deep dive into her whole mindset around food. And I know that this is an issue that a lot of people struggle with, and it's going to be really helpful to understand kind of where you maybe need to change your mindset in order to help you to feel your best as often as possible, right? So there's 5 different topics that I'm going to go through today. So the first one is going to be on absolutes. So looking at food as either good or bad, and why that's usually not a good idea. The second one will be looking at food in terms of macronutrients and the energy that those macronutrients in food is going to give you to allow you to feel your best. The third one is going to be talking about sugar. The fourth one will be about self-experimentation. So I'm going to be talking about, figuring out what foods you like and dislike, and why that's really important to help you to get long-term results and make this a sustainable change, not just a quick fix. And then also the last one will be discussing why you don't have to restrict yourself, and also how to get the results that you want while still enjoying your favorite food or alcohol or whatever it may be. So 5 really important questions, and I'm going to go through that now in a second. So ideally what you would do as you're watching this is just taking some notes, and that way you're going to be able to figure out like where or what in this presentation is going to be most helpful for you. And then after you've taken some notes, you can also then just ask me some questions based off anything that I'm going to discuss. So the first one, looking at food as either good or bad is usually a bad idea. It's not a good idea, because food is neither good or bad, right? It's usually the case that we look at food as being good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, based off our prior experiences with that food, or maybe how that food has made us feel. And a big part of it is, like, a lot of people would say, like, oh, you can't eat certain types of food if you want to like lose weight, or if you want to lose body fat, or you want to get stronger, or whatever. So there's a lot of people that say, like, oh, there's good types of food and there's bad types of food, when in reality all food is providing us is energy and fuel to help us to do our daily activities, to help us to train, to exercise, to go to work, to take care of our kids, whatever it may be, right? So we need to get out of this mindset of looking at food as good or bad, and start looking at it for what it actually is, which is fuel, which is giving us energy, which allows us to feel our best, to go throughout, go with the day and help us to be productive and get things done, right? So it's not a good idea to deal with things in absolutes. So an absolute would be like, oh, this is bad or this is good, and we'll try and refrain from being in that mindset. So the second one is looking at food in terms of macronutrients and the energy they give us. So it's going to be really important that when you look at food from now on, you don't just look at it as like, okay, that's a McDonald's hamburger, or that's an avocado, or that is a chicken breast. We want to look at it in terms of the macronutrients. So how much protein is it giving us, how much carbohydrates is it giving us, how much fat is it giving us, and then also you can think about how much fiber it's giving you, right? And it's really important to look at it like that, because each macronutrient will give you something different, right? So it's really important that we eat enough protein every day, because if you eat enough protein, it's going to give you lots of energy, it's going to keep you feeling full. That means that you're not going to have as many cravings as you may usually have, especially in the evenings. It's going to help you to feel better overall, because you're going to be satiated. You're going to have that full feeling from your food, and then it's going to just help you overall, especially with like your skin, your hair, your nails, all that sort of stuff. So that's one part of why protein is important. Carbohydrates then are our body's main source of fuel, right? So It's like if you drive a petrol car, obviously you put petrol in it because that's its main source of fuel. Same with our bodies. Our bodies work best, especially when it comes to training, when we have carbohydrates inside, your muscle cells to use as energy. So carbohydrates are going to be great for being helpful for energy, especially if you are training. Then of course, when you look at fat intake is really important because you need to have a certain amount of fat each day that's going to support your hormones and also your skin health, your brain health, your nervous system. But also fat intake is really important because it's going to help you to, again, have more energy throughout the day. So if you have a combination of protein and fat in one meal, it's going to give you a sustained amount of energy for a long period of time. And then of course, fiber is really important, especially for your digestive system. So if you don't have much fiber in your diet, you're probably not going to have a good time when you're going for a number 2 in the bathroom, right? So an adequate amount of fiber is really important for your gut health and also making your experience in the bathroom as pleasant as possible. So obviously it's not comfortable if you have, diarrhea or constipation or anything like that. So fiber is going to play an important role in that. So it's really important that you understand the core basics there when it comes to macronutrients, because now you don't have to look at food as being either good or bad. You can look at the food and be like, and you can think critically about it and be like, okay, well, let's just say, for example, if you went to McDonald's, you can look at something as like, okay, well, that has a certain amount of protein, it has a certain amount of carbs, it has a certain amount of fat, how is that going to fit into my daily intake with my goals? And we'll expand on that more as we get more into this topic. So the third one is sugar. A lot of people have a misconception or a poor understanding of sugar, and a lot of people think that sugar is bad for you. And again, it's this issue of looking at something in absolutes. Sugar is not good or bad. It depends on how you use it, right? So if we think of like, if somebody drinks, if they have one bottle of wine, right? That's not going to be much of an issue. Like, you might have a slight hangover the next day or whatever, but it's not going to be that much of an issue. But if somebody is an alcoholic and they drink wine all the time, that's going to be a major issue. So you can kind of apply the same kind of logic to sugar. If you are using sugar as energy, right? So let's say, I bought a Gatorade the other day. There's water in it now, but I bought a Gatorade the other day. Gatorade is mostly sugar, right? And I'm using that sugar intake to fuel my training, right? So I was cycling, I was in the gym, I've been training a couple of times already this week. So I'm using that sugar, the sugar which goes into my body, then goes into my muscle cells. I'm using that sugar as energy and fuel to help me get through my training, right? So sugar can be really good in that sense, right? So it's always context dependent. But then if you are someone who is really lazy, you never train, you never exercise, you never move or do any type of exercise like that, and you consume a lot of sugar, then it is going to be an issue because most likely you're eating in a calorie surplus. You're intaking too much energy for your body. So then that's going to get stored as body fat when you are in a calorie surplus. Then it's probably going to add on, extra weight. Then that's going to affect you in terms of your confidence. You're not going to feel as good. Overall, you're not going to be that happy when you look in the mirror. You're going to feel even worse because obviously the more overweight you are or the more body fat you have in your frame, the less energy you might have, and overall you just won't feel as good. So there's two different types of situations, and as you can see, it's always context dependent. So sugar is neither good nor bad. It depends on how you are using it and if you are using it for exercise or not, right? So the next thing I want to discuss is self-experimentation. So self-experimentation is really important with food because we all have foods that we like and we dislike. Certain foods will agree with your body better than others. So I'll give you a practical example, right? For me, over the last 9 years, I've been doing a lot of self-experimenting, and I've realized that, eating pasta makes me feel really tired. So I don't really eat pasta that often because I don't want to feel tired or feel like I have to pass out on the couch or fall asleep, right? So that's one kind of idea of something. Another one would be whey protein, right? A lot of people recommend whey protein, but I have tried using whey protein before and it gives me a lot of stomach cramps. It really affects my digestive system, and it generally makes me feel queasy and kind of uncomfortable. So I don't use whey protein anymore. If I was going to use anything, I would use pea protein, which is obviously it's pea, so it's vegetarian based, and that allows me to feel better because it has a much better effect on my digestive system than whey protein would. So self-experimentation around your food is really important, because if you can figure out what foods you like, and then what foods, probably even more important to find out what foods you don't like, then over time you can build up a list of your favorite foods that agree with you, that give you energy, that make you feel good. And then it'll probably only take maybe 6 or 12 months, and then you will know for sure what foods work best for your body. Another example is, a lot of people are lactose intolerant, so they can't have any dairy. So, those people who are lactose intolerant won't drink milk or have any type of dairy because it has a really negative effect on their digestive system. So that's a type of self-experimentation as well, where they've figured out that, okay, let's not have any dairy because that doesn't make me feel good. So if you can do that, I promise you that it's going to allow you to have more energy and also to feel your best. And obviously when you feel better, it makes it much easier to, be productive, to get through work, to go and train more regularly, and, it has a lot of positive effects like that. So the last point is I'm going to talk about why you shouldn't, or you don't need to restrict yourself, or you shouldn't have to feel like you have to restrict yourself from eating foods, right? So as I said at the start of this video, we want to get away from looking at foods as either good or bad, because it's an issue to deal with things in absolutes. We just want to look at food for what it is, how much energy it's giving you, and look at the macronutrients. And then this is going to be really helpful when it comes to not restricting yourself, because if you can eat the foods that work best for you and also allow you to feel full and satisfied and give you lots of energy, then you're going to be able to have much more balance with things. And especially if you have a specific goal, right? So everything is always context dependent. So let's say, for example, you just want to maintain where you are. You're happy with how you look, and you don't want to lose weight, you don't want to gain weight, you don't want to lose body fat or gain body fat, you just want to feel your best, maybe get a little bit fitter, right? So in that context, you would be at what is called a maintenance level of calories. So to keep it simple, let's just say the average female that I work with would maybe have 1,600 calories per day, roughly speaking, to maintain their weight. Obviously, some people will need less, some people will need more. It all depends on your height, weight, size, activity level, all those different things. But for this context specifically, we'll just say 1,600 calories will maintain your weight, right? So if you were to eat 1,600 calories on a regular basis, then all you have to do is make sure that the foods you're eating are within your calories, right? So that's one part of it. But then the next part of it is that if you are a normal person, you're going to want to enjoy yourself at the weekends. You're probably going to want to have a few drinks. You're probably going to go out and have some, food that's not planned. Obviously, you might go to McDonald's or go to a restaurant or whatever it may be. So we have to accommodate for that as well, because a really important part of having a sustainable plan, making this more of a lifestyle change instead of just a quick fix, is having that flexibility around your food, right? So it's really important that you, instead of focusing on every single day trying to hit 1,600 calories, you would focus on the weekly average, right? So it's normal, you might have some extra gin, let's say, on a Friday night, so your calories are probably going to be a bit higher on a Friday. You might go out for dinner on a Saturday, and you're probably gonna have like dessert, so your calories will probably be higher on Saturday as well. But then maybe Sunday through Thursday, it's more normal because you're just in more of a routine or whatever it may be. So when you look at your food in terms of a weekly calorie intake instead of just one day, then it's much easier to have more flexibility, because you can go higher calorie intake on the days that you want to enjoy yourself, and then you can go maybe a little bit lower on the other days when you're maybe training more or more busy. And then once it kind of balances out over the course of 7 days, it means that you're still going to be able to get results, right? So you're still going to be able to see whatever results you want to see, while also still enjoying your favorite food. So what you're doing now is you're getting the best of both worlds. You're able to enjoy your food and that's making you feel good, you're able to enjoy chocolate or takeaways or McDonald's or whatever, you know, stuff you prefer. So you're feeling good from that, and you're also feeling good from the fact that you're training more regularly as well. And then obviously if you train more regularly, then that's going to help you to sleep better, you're going to have better mental health, you're going to be able to stay more present, and all of those things, right? So you've got this more flexibility with food now, and more training, and all of these things, right? So it's all positive things that's helping you to feel much better overall. And so that's why it's really important that you never should have to feel like you have to restrict yourself. You just need to keep the balance between enjoying yourself and also training on a regular basis as well, right? So once you get that balance, I can promise you, you're going to feel absolutely amazing, and you're going to be able to move away from that kind of restrictive, unhealthy diet based mindset into a much better mindset where you're like, okay, well, you know, the world is my oyster, I can have really whatever I want, provided I, you know, still am staying active and training on a regular basis, right? So I think that's, you know, a really positive way to look at food, and it's really a good way to kind of change your mindset as well. So I suppose that's the most important thing, is that you have to think critically about things, especially about food, and it's always context dependent, right? So I'll give you another example. If, let's say, you wanted to tone up a little bit, you wanted to lose a few inches from around your stomach, you know, you wanted to get the back of your arms a little bit more defined, then in that case, you would have to be in a slight calorie deficit. So let's just say, for example's sake, that you need to eat, let's say, 1400 calories to be in a slight calorie deficit. That's going to allow your body to use any stored body fat anywhere around as fuel. And then when you stay in that calorie deficit for a long enough period, you're going to be able to get leaner and achieve that goal, right? So in this context, if it was 1400 calories, then it's the exact same thing. All you have to do is, you can still enjoy your favorite food or alcohol or whatever, but it's just a case of fitting that into your weekly calorie intake as well, right? So, and the good thing is, you know, the more active you are, the more training you do, the more calories you burn, the more allowance you'll have to eat more of your favorite food, right? So that's why I'm always recommending to people that, you know, it's a better idea to try and add more into your lifestyle instead of trying to take away, right? You want to add more activity, add more training, add more food, obviously, you know, in the right amounts for you, so that it's going to allow you to feel your best, instead of thinking like, okay, I'm going to have to restrict myself from that, I'm going to have to stop doing this, I'm going to have to stop doing that, I have to stop having a social life, all that sort of stuff, right? So just think about it critically, have a think about the context, and then just kind of follow all those simple steps that I gave you. And I can promise that if you follow all of those simple steps, you're going to have a much more positive mindset when it comes to food. And most importantly, you're just going to be able to feel happier and enjoy yourself more, because there is an element of stress that comes along with, you know, that mindset of thinking that you have to restrict yourself. So when you get out of that, it's less stressful as well. So then obviously it's easier to feel happier, which at the end of the day is the whole goal of doing any of this stuff, is just to feel good mentally and physically, right? So that's pretty much it. Just to recap, went over good or bad mindset when it comes to food, looking at food in terms of macronutrients, the energy that it's going to give you to allow you to feel your best, covered sugar, self-experimentation with food, and then also why you don't have to restrict yourself. And then I also give you loads of different examples there that are kind of that you can use to apply to your own situation. So hope that video was helpful. If you have any questions about anything at all, feel free to ask. Just send me a message or shoot me an email. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again soon.